Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the FBA and e-commerce podcast.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
Okay, like I mentioned on Monday's episode, we have a great show today. We're going to be talking about how to improve your website and content with SEO. This is uber important. Our guest today has personally played a role in the success of brands like Disney, Honda, Skechers, and some of my favorites, Applebee and IHOP, Dole, anything food related. Okay, he's also the practitioner of local and e-commerce search engine optimization and page search advertising. Returning guest, Steve Wiideman. Can't wait to talk to him. But before we do that, just a quick shout out to Sellerize. Sellerize is a comprehensive solution for your everyday business needs. It's everything you need to grow and scale your Amazon business, and it's just a click away. For more information, please visit Sellerize.com. That's Sellerize with one R. All right, where's the boy wonder, Squire Kelsey?
Hello, happy Monday. Welcome
How are you,
everyone to
sir?
the show. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. Did you behave over the last 2 days?
I did. I'm here at my new place and we didn't have a couch for the last week or so that finally came in so I can actually get comfy at my place. It feels a little more like home
I was just
than
wondering why you
the
weren't,
plastic chairs.
returning any of my messages that I was sending you on the weekend. But
Yeah, well, that's, I
all
got
right.
priorities.
Yeah. All right.
All
So
right.
what do we got going?
All right, so first of all, I want to welcome to the show Andy, Simon, Jessica Rabbit, aka Rosalind from Florida, Marsha, and we have Rad. It's great to see everyone. How is everyone doing? Did you do anything fun this weekend? Do you have anything planned for Q4? Let us know in the comment sections. Also, if you're listening to this on a replay, just go ahead and skip all this and go right to the action if you want to start the interview off. And smash those like buttons. Let's get this thing going. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel too if you're watching from YouTube. It's the big red button down below. And also don't forget to hit the 3 dots if you're watching from Facebook. Click those push notifications so you get those notifications right when we go live. And I think that's about it. We can just jump into the good stuff. Welcome, Setochu. I believe that's Jose, actually. Marina. It's good to see everyone, and thank you, Rad. I'm growing the mustache. Yes, this is for Movember. It's 15 days old, and it's still lots of time to grow.
You still have the breadcrumbs in there from the last time we talked. Just saying.
Yes, yeah.
Just
Well,
saying.
Save them for later.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions, just throw them or comments, throw them over into the comment section. And we're going to be talking about SEO. We've got one of the top guys in the business. Make sure, please ask questions as we go along. We will get to them at the end of the podcast. Okay. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the episode. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me back again, Norm. It's funny, you mentioned all the food brands that I'd worked with, and I realized, I'm like, well, that's how I gained all the weight. I kept looking at food all day long. I must have gained like 40 pounds in the last decade, and thankfully, I met up with a gentleman named Mike Warren who runs this program called Ditch the Dad Bod.
Yeah.
Over the last year, I've been able to drop like 35 of those 40 pounds, and I feel much better. But I think you're right. I think you need to look at more non-food industries as something to get into, because I feel like maybe there's something subconsciously that's making me want to eat more. I don't know.
I'm right there with you. I've got, although I don't have any grandchildren, I've got the granddad bod. So
I've never heard that one. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks again for having me back. I'm excited to talk about web page optimization for conversion rates, and see how we can talk about different elements of a landing page and just kind of nerd out about page level SEO.
yeah, it's so important. A lot of people have no idea how important. And it's funny because I'm going to be on. You might not know Kevin, but Kevin King is one of the top guys, top trainers, moderators, like just guys in the Amazon business. And I'm going to be talking about building out a brand. not just an Amazon listing, but building out a brand. And it's important because, people right now, what's funny? I went to a show recently called the Amazon Powwow in Miami, and I was talking to a couple of aggregators. And a year ago or 2 years ago, Amazon brands would sell, like people were concentrating on sales. And they were trying to, aggregators were just buying up left, right, and center, 2.5 times multiples. But it ended up expanding now to 4, 5, 6, 7.5 times multiples on earnings. And now it's changing over. People are starting to spend lots of money on building their brand. And they're taking a longer time to establish it or throwing more money into it, which is going to reflect a completely different model, which is going to be, 1 times revenue or X times revenue. And this is all about that. This is trying to build that. This is something that a lot of Amazon sellers have never had to think about. And now it's time. It really is time. You've dealt with it forever, but even these micro brands, they have to do it. So here's the question, long way around it. Why is that so important?
It's incredibly important when you look at this scheme of things. I remember watching Bob's Watches go from non-existent to, hey, let's purchase an old domain that's been alive for a while with a website, to let's now turn it into a brand. And now it's probably one of the top 3 consignment sites in Rolex and pre-owned Rolex. And that was such an important part for Paul Oturi, the owner. It wasn't just, hey, let's dominate every keyword in Google. It's let's build a brand so that people start to recognize us, remember us as being the first place that you could buy and sell online for your Rolex, and let's make our names a brand so that we get higher click rates and search results because people recognize us. Let's build relationships with the top industry sites that talk about our products and services, and do some advertising, put some dollars behind it so that people start to recognize us. And then they see us in search results and they're more likely to click on us. And hopefully, if we provided a good result and an affordable price and they have trust, all those EAT signals we always talk about, the expertise, authority, trust signals, then, they'll stay, they'll purchase, and Google will infer that we were a helpful result. Again, moving us up in search. So I think brand is such an important part, even with Skechers. I remember when we were working with Skechers, they kept telling us we want it to be a brand-driven SEO strategy. I'm like, what about all the non-branded keywords like kids' shoes? You've got girls' shoes and boys' shoes, but there's no kids' shoes page, and lots of people are searching for that. And they said, yeah, but if you look at the click-through rates, and at the time you could even see some of the keywords before Google hid them behind the not provided, it didn't convert as well. It was a brand awareness search term because people they didn't know which shoes they wanted specifically yet. They were just window shopping. But when they search for kids size 7 blue tennis shoes, they know what they want. But when they type in kids shoes, they don't. So a lot of the energy was, and you'll see this in paid search every day, right? A majority of your budget for these larger brands, Applebee's and Skechers, all these other companies we mentioned, at least 95% of their paid search budget is going toward brand, to own their brand and all the different permutations. So it's critical so they don't get flanked by the competition and lose out on that business. It's affordable because Google gives really high relevancy scores to branded terms because people know that that's the company. So it's kind of a win-win. And we're doing this right now with one of our restaurant chains. We did some keyword research, just using their name as a required part of the search term, and we found like over 1,000 different ways that people were searching history and company information. They're looking at events that had happened, previous commercials, and we started searching for that content. And the site had nothing on there, and it was all just third-party sites, news sites, press releases. I'm like, wow, you're missing out on a lot of your own branded traffic. You could drive them into your loyalty programs. You can cookie them and remarket to them. You could do so much with that branded traffic where they have a specific interest in you. If you just take a look at the ways that they're searching for you and create content so that you have, and Google's always going to rank your website first, as long as you've got a page of content that matches their query, they're going to give you that credit. So I think brand is instrumental, and maybe even foundational when you're thinking about a search strategy.
I've dealt with a lot of different companies. I've seen really good content and I've seen horrible content. And when we're talking about content, We're not talking about the content that you get 250 words or 500 words from somebody who you've picked up for $2 in the Philippines who doesn't really have a good grasp of English.
Sure.
The better the quality, and I think Neil Patel talks about this. He talks about if you don't publish the best quality blog, don't publish it at all. Would you agree with that?
I've said that many times. Even our friends over at Bob's Watches at one point were convinced that every day they had to post content. Every day I have to post content. Like, yeah, but if you look at the traffic and the links and the sharing that content has earned you, you're going to find out that it's not that great. And 1 out of 5 posts gets reasonable attention. So let's focus on quality, not quantity. And let's redirect a lot of that content that didn't get much visibility, that wasn't really shared or picked up on, that thin sort of low quality Google Panda style content. And now the cadence is completely different. Now it's a focus on what search terms are we trying to emphasize, what other content are we trying to promote through internal links, and who can we collaborate with to get them to share this so that every page gets at least 2 or 3 other websites sharing, curating, and linking to that content so that Google starts to see all that being helpful. Whereas if it sits out there for months, shows up in the search results a few times, doesn't get clicked on, or does, and people bounce back and choose different results, it's like, how is that helpful, right? So I think you're right. I think it's all about the quality and not the quantity, for sure.
And what about mixing up the content? So there's a lot of sites that I'll go to and it'll be the exact same thing. 3 reasons why, 5 tips how, and it's the exact same title. It's just you can switch around the words. Is it like SEO where you should switch around the style of content? Just mix it up a bit?
I think it depends on who your user is and what mode of the buyer's journey it is. But I can tell you, when you talk about mixing up content, I'm like, Norm, the 90s called and they want your SEO program back. It's like we don't spin or mix, article content anymore. Don't use.
That's not what I'm talking about, by the way. That's not what I'm talking about. Like in social media, we'll talk about polls, questions, curated
Sure.
content, posting from your blog article. What I'm talking about is maybe not using those hooks, although hooks are very popular.
Sure.
But talking about different types of ways to promote your content or the way that you write the titles.
Sure. Well, I think testing is always a good idea. I think the first thing you could do is perform a search for the term that you're trying to appear for and see what types of content Google's displaying. Maybe even run a survey and saying, hey, we're going to, maybe ask your customers, hey, we're going to run a blog post. Which of these 3 titles do you like the best? Right. And if you participate in the poll, you can win a $20 gift card. So get your clients' feedback. Those are the ones that are going to be, the demographic that you're going after. That's your target audience. So why not, get them involved in the process? Why not have a focus group? Routine, Wiideman system, Rootine, does this. I'm in a Discord group, a Slack group, and on email threads. SimilarWeb does the same thing. They have their SimilarWeb All-Stars. They've got a Slack group. They've got a Facebook group, right? And they're getting their customers involved in what they're doing in marketing. Hey guys, what do you think of this? And and just really getting with the folks that really believe in the brand and the products and getting them involved in that process. So I think that's where I would start. Of course, there's tons of generators you could use, like title generators out there. HubSpot's got a few, and there's a few different things you can play with to draw inspiration, for sure. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be about looking at the search results, seeing the types of content that rank well, that searchers tend to gravitate toward, but standing out, being unique, do something different. Test emojis on long form content and titles, right? Sometimes having an emoji in there make your listing stand out. Start with symbols or asterisks to make your title stand out a little bit more and be clickable. All sorts of tests that you could run. Maybe run, depending on how much traffic you're getting to your site, maybe run 1 a week or 1 a month to see what that click-through rate difference is when you look at Search Console and filter into just that URL and just those queries that you're testing against. See what people respond to. And you can test this with Google Ads too. You could actually start with doing your Google Ads with similar titles and see what that click-through rates are, what the click-through rate is before you move it over to SEO.
Okay. Now, okay, so I'm going to back up, and uh, I'm just going to ask, because you said you talked about spinning articles, but there is a lot of I get hit up all the time now with these new AI spinning tools,
Hmm.
and they come out and they say, okay, find an article, spin it. And we have this, proprietary, you see it all the time. We have this proprietary AI algorithm that will, okay, what's that all about and can you use them?
Sure. So it's two different things, right? There's the 90s article spinning that we both
Hmm.
agreed we just don't do. We don't punch, an article into a spinner and then go through all the different derivatives so that it swaps them out. You put the word, put a pipe, and then two different variations, and then let it spin it. We don't do that anymore. We used to do that when we were, in the early 2000s,
Hmm.
before all the But when we're thinking about how do we make an article unique without just dedicating time and research and referencing books and college and educational and government websites for actual fact data that we can source. If you're saying, hey, let's just put a few keywords in and let the AI do its thing, I've seen mixed results. I've seen some that just doesn't make any sense. I've seen others with Jarvis, formerly Conversion AI, and with, was it Phrase? And I've seen some of the titles and descriptions actually look pretty decent, and they're not really spinning them. I think they're actually using, the I don't even know if it's AI. I think it's more logic and business rules than AI, honestly. But some of them make sense, especially if it's product. In a lot of cases, that the user is interested in the sales copy and the title. They're more interested in the details of the products that they're interested in. So in some cases, it seems to spit out some reasonable suggestions, but all are worth testing. And I don't feel like any of it's really spinning it. Well, at least the ones that do a good job of it, like Jarvis. But I do think it's worth testing. Depending on your industry, test it, see if it saves you a little bit of time. In terms of writing long form content, no, don't have AI do that. That's casual content. It should have the voice of the brand. But if you're talking about product descriptions and you're talking about something that isn't meant to be sort of conversational text, it's supposed to be informational, then test it, see if it could save you some time. And I mentioned a couple of different tools that you can play around with, but for long form, I would say really take the time, decide what your structure is going to be, get those right keywords into titles, headings, subheadings. Don't be repetitive, don't stuff keywords. Make sure you break up your content with lists and all the great attributes I'm sure we're going to dig into in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
really take the time, make that long form content the most helpful, useful, and easy to navigate, and have a really good page flow. Norman, honestly, that's the one thing I see is the biggest challenge, and has been for years, is that you, as an SEO specialist and or even just an SEO writer, you've got all the right elements on the page, right? All the right keywords in the right places, but the page doesn't look right. It doesn't flow correctly. It just looks like repetitive, information. And and you've got all the right keywords, and there's video and there's an image and stuff, but it just doesn't look right. It doesn't flow. So having the right UI, the right usability expert to help you to design that page or to do mock-ups. Our guy Brian over here is just literally a genius. We're so lucky to have him because he can whip together a mock-up that takes a site that's got all the right elements and makes it actually read really well and flow incredibly. Right space, the right aesthetics, the right margins, the right padding. All of those things make such a difference to the user experience. Even if you have all the right SEO elements, if the user feels subconsciously that something's off, they're going to bounce, choose a competitor, and you're just going to get demoted in the rankings.
Right. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about, just point out to anybody listening, we've had Bill Fraser on from Phrase, and one of the things I love about it, it's sort of like Answer the Public on steroids. And so if you can go in and if you're looking for content, Phrase will help you go through this. I don't know what it's called. I call it a mind map, but it'll be like Answer the Public. It'll show you all the topics, the different questions, and it gives you the #1 ranked article for that question. So it's something very inexpensive that you can use, and there's got tons of different things that you can do with it. But this is one thing that you can do just to get ideas if you're lazy and you don't want to do it yourself. But this is one way to very quickly do it. Steve, before I forget, we're already 12:30. You have a really great giveaway today. It's probably one of the biggest giveaways we've given away. You want to just tell everybody about what that is?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we've been evolving over the years is our technical SEO checkup, right? It's about 72 different items that we'll look at, everything from those EAT signals we were just talking about to security, accessibility, privacy, core web vitals, right? All these things that the search engines are throwing at us every day. So we thought it'd be fun to give one of those away. We sell these for as high as $3,500. So kind of a cool value if your audience finds it interesting, and hopefully, we can give you something that you can give to your web developer to really kick your technical SEO up a notch. Might not solve for your content and off-page issues, but for sure it'll give you everything you need prioritized for your technical SEO.
Fantastic. So that's a 72-point check for your SEO, and that has a value up to $3,500. So if you're interested, hashtag Wheel of Kelsey if you want to get an extra entry. Tag 2 people and get them to comment. All right. Let's see. Let's move on. Let's talk about the anatomy of a well-written SEO article.
So we're talking about upper funnel now, right? The long form, not the lower funnel customer attracting content. So
That's
we're talking about articles, and we're looking at the goal of that article to attract new potential customers down the road, to attract people who have an interest or affinity in our products or service, but aren't specifically searching for our product or service. This is this is my favorite type of content, honestly, because you can have fun with it. You can be goofy. You can make it, 3,000 words if you've got enough information or insights that you can share about it. The call to action is going to be different, right? You're not going to have fill out this form. You're not going to have, contact us now. If you've done it correctly, you've segmented your upper funnel content to not have any sales cues, so that it's more likely that somebody would want to share it, so they don't feel like they're sending somebody to a sales page. Your call to actions change to, download. Hey, you want to get this guide in audio? Download the audio here. We want to get our checklist that's mentioned on this page. Download it. And then they opt into your newsletter. So I think the call to action on that content should be toward downloads or sign up for some fun event. Make it something where they want to. Hey, was this helpful? Do you want more of this? We'll have it sent straight to your inbox via FeedBurner, and FeedBurner's gone now, but via whatever you happen to be using for your RSS. And basically every time you do content now, they're going to get an email saying, here's the latest and greatest. But that page structure itself is going to be a little bit different than our sales page. We're not going to have, the couple check marks of value proposition and a call to action button and, an image at the top. Instead, we're going to focus in on what the user really was looking for. And usually right at the top, that's a headline and a short summary. And I know people who've been in publishing for a long time hate this because they want people to read the whole article before they get the summary, right? That's how they get you to click and stay and get all the crazy ads and accidentally click on ads so they make money. But the reality is most consumers, if you're looking to answer a question or solve a problem, they want that short answer right away. And if you're a savvy SEO, you're going to have that 375 character or less summary with a nice little copy to clipboard button, so that it makes it really easy for anybody who wants to share it or curate it, so that when Google does find that short summary across the web, it starts to think that maybe that's a good answer, and they'll show it as the featured answer at the top of the search results in that coveted position 0 that we all want. So I would say the first thing you're going to see, especially because most of your users are going to be on these mobile devices now, that it should be a headline and it should be that short summary. And maybe you'll have like a background image in the background, and make sure you're using the newer formats. Don't, stop using JPEGs and PNGs. Start using WebP and, some of them other faster loading and more, future ready image formats. So that when the user sees something that's visual, that's compelling, they see the short summary, and maybe just at the bottom of that, below that short summary, they're going to see a very short table of contents. If you want an example of that, look at any Healthline article. If you go to Google and you search for Healthline keto, right, you'll see this, one of their keto articles. It's one of my favorites to reference because it has all the right elements. It's got, a quick little breadcrumb. It's got the main H1 title. It's got that short summary at the top, and then it's also got the very short and explicit table of contents, which could culminate into having jump to links in the search results. It means that page has supportive content and isn't just, in some cases, isn't just one page. Maybe it's a couple sub pages as well. But it's a really great way to organize that page before the user even starts reading. Hey, I got the first thing I needed. The headline resonated with me. The summary was the first thing I needed right away. And in fact, this is what I needed to share with somebody. So I'm going to copy it and put it on my website. And then here's a list of links for the different areas of this page. And if they want to drill in, they want to look at the charts and the graphs and the info and the graphics, they will. But if they just wanted that short summary, let them get what they need. And they're not going to go back to Google, right? That's the worry that a lot of publishers have, that, well, if I give them the answer right away, they're just going to go back to Google. And I want that to happen. No, they got the answer. They're done. They're not going back to Google. They're going to close the tab, right? They're done. So it's okay. Let them have that short summary or short checklist, right? Maybe, 8 to 10 items in a little list, very short list. So it doesn't, wrap around or word wrap in the featured answer area. If you do one of those two things, that short paragraph or that short list, you have a higher probability of getting that featured answer. So I think that's above the fold. You want to chat about that a little bit more, or do you want me to kind of drop?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about that summary. I've never heard that before with the copy all. So that's kind of cool. Kelsey, you'll have to get on that. But
No one's doing it. No one's doing it.
But if you do that, and I don't know if this would be considered taboo or not, but could you take those summaries and put it on? Well, I guess you could. You could put it on your
Social.
on your main blog page, just showing the summaries with an image, and then when they click read more, now that's not the same thing, but if they click read more, then it would come over. I'm just trying to find a way where you can just highlight all the summaries, and they don't even get to the article. They just click on the summary and copy the information that they want.
That would be something fun to test for sure. I love that. And remember, we don't use read more anymore. Google wants us to be more descriptive in our links, so we want to make sure it's read about and whatever the topic happens to be, or find out, or get the tips, or just make sure, because in some cases you'll look at a page and there'll be 6 different read more links, and that's not very descriptive for accessibility or for Google. So but yeah, I love where you're going with that.
And the other thing I was thinking about is in your table of contents. Would you write the table of contents as a question rather than the actual content?
It might look strange on mobile devices. I think I would test it. Look again at Healthline and how they've kind of summarize their questions into just very short phrases. And then when you actually jump to that section, they are written as questions in many cases. So I don't know that you need the explicit anchor text anymore for the jump to link, but I would do it in the subheading itself for sure, because that's what's going to get you into that people also asked section.
Right.
That's what, now that Google's using passages and not just the whole page to rank you, now they're using sections of your page. I think that's going to help you a lot, especially with those featured answers, because there's not really a lot of, I rarely see it for lower funnel content. We don't usually see a featured answer. It's normally for this informational how to, where to, why to questions. You mentioned phrase, and there's another one, answer the public. That's one of my favorites. And it'll give you all of those different questions. It doesn't give you as much on, and you might have to use a tool like Conductor or maybe SEMrush to get this, but you want to get some that are also ideas, strategies, tips, not just keywords that start with what, when, how, where, why, because there's a lot of people who are asking or looking for answers to questions where they don't start out with one of those, right? So I think there's a lot more to explore and play with, but I would keep those jump to links short and really easy to see on a mobile device so that it doesn't feel overwhelming to the user.
You mentioned SEMrush, and if you're not familiar with SEMrush, it's a great tool. Ahrefs is great. I mean, there's Moz is great. One thing I like about SEMrush, and I'm not sure about the others if they do this, but they have an area when you type in a keyword where it gives you questions and ideas, which is really cool.
Yeah, just a little button, it's a toggle button.
Yeah,
So you use the keyword magic tool, you punch in lunch, right? And it comes up with, and you hit the little questions button, and it comes up with all the questions that have lunch in it. It's really neat.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if there's anything further, and I'm sure there is, that we can dive into on a long form blog. One of the things I was wondering about, how often should you come back and update it?
I think it depends on the topic. Some topics are evergreen, like the history of something isn't going to change, right? It might evolve into recent history, but if you're looking at, and you're telling a story about the company or about a product that no longer exists, there's no reason to really change that. But I saw OSMED conferences in Australia go back through all of the historical posts that were big traffic generators for them and do a refresh. They refreshed the titles, the descriptions, the headings. They used their Google Search Console to find what words were really generating high click-through rates, and applied some of those search terms. Same thing on any sort of paid search that they were doing where they were driving people to upper funnel content, which is rare, but it happens. And they were using the search term data from their ads to help to modify or enhance the page based on what really drove the highest engagement. So I think there's always an opportunity to improve content. Maybe set something up. I mentioned surveys. Maybe set something up where once a week you're shooting off a survey saying what would you improve on this page, or what would you change? And if you're number one for a broader search term and you start to notice that you're losing ranking, and that's a keyword that's driving 20-30,000 visits a month, you might set up an alert like Visual Ping, which is a browser extension. I think it's free up to 5 searches. It's called Visual Ping, and get an alert every time those competing pages make a change. What are the other 9 listings doing, so that we get an alert? Oh, they've modified their heading. Oh, they've used this new keyword. Oh, they added a graphic. It's good to know that, because when it does change, you can go back to that change log and see what it was that they did that moved them up over us. And cool. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity to improve and modify, especially if it's dated content, right? I mean, I've got a lot of that, and I look back, I'm like, whoa, search results don't look like this anymore. There's a 7-pack listings in here. What's going on? Let me refresh this local SEO article so that it reflects today's ecosystem.
So I've got a product, an older product that I'm bringing back to market. I've stopped using it now. It's a beauty product, and most of the content is from 2014, 15, maybe some 16. So I can go back there and just basically spritz it up a bit, better header. I mean, and the rules back then were different than the rules nowadays, right? But just give it a complete overhaul, and I should be able to get it re-indexed, and everything will be fine again.
If there's an interest still, right? If you're looking at the Google Keyword Planner and you see a spike in interest, and as long as that page hasn't been redirected or 301, right? I would do a search for 6 or 7 words from that page and quotes to see what type of results come up. We should be number 1 if that's our content. But if we discover that we're not, that we've kind of lost track of this page and some other page on the internet is getting credit for that content because it's become more linked to and more helpful, and Google decides that that's a better page, even though it was our originating content, it might be time for a content refresh. But if we find that we're still ranking really well, then yeah, I look at the historical last 16 months of search term data from Search Console. If you have any historical data and analytics around keywords, look at that, and then make your tweaks based on, the click-through rates and, the engagement rates and analytics.
So we started talking about the header, going over to a summary, then going over to the table of contents, then high quality, well-written paragraphs. And It could be a 1,500 word article. It could be a 750 word article. It could be a 3,000 word article. Let's talk about linking.
Okay.
So just the ability to find, like, a lot of the times, people are linking. They have the anchor text. And it's a direct, exact keyword match, which I think we talked about it last time, and that's kind of taboo nowadays, isn't it?
Depending on the content, for sure. I think, and I know I'm so cliche, right, for any SEO to say it depends, but I really like how Helpline does it. Helpline uses explicit anchor text to other internal content, and Google's okay with that because we're basically defining what the page is going to be when they go there, right? And we're not doing that with inbound links, right? We don't focus on anchor text anymore for inbound links. That's just going to get you in trouble. But we do want our internal links to have anchor text, and we don't want to link to two different pages using the same anchor text, because it's confusing the search engines about which page is the most relevant for this particular phrase. So we want to make sure that we're only linking to one page if we're using that exact anchor text. For outbound links, on the other hand, I like how Helpline does it. They actually use superscript and a number, sort of like a footnote. So you see the number, and it's right after the thing, and then it clicks away. Now, if it's to an educational website or a government website, they don't put a no follow on it. But if it's to some other smaller website or one that might not be as trustworthy, then they add the no follow attribute to it. But if it is .edu or .gov site that they're linking to, they want to get that credit for the EAT, and they do trust those domains, and they want Google to crawl to them. But if it's one that could get compromised, or a WordPress website somewhere, they might add a rel equals no follow just to tell the search engines, hey, I don't necessarily trust this page, but this is where I'm citing my reference to something that I said in the article. And then you mentioned, there's different ways. There's the UGC. So if you have a comment section, make sure all the links that are going out, if you're allowing links, to have that rel equals UGC. The rel is the attribute, and the UGC is the variable, as in user generated content. If someone's paying because they want to be sponsored, and you have this is a sponsored article on our website, which is totally fine. It's native advertising. I would do that. Just make sure that the rel attribute has a sponsored variable, so that Google knows, hey, this article is a sponsored article, and they're not going to weigh it the same. And if you just want to use the traditional no follow, that works great too. But I do love the fact that Helpline uses explicit anchor text to promote their own content, and then numbered footnote-looking superscript outbound links for external links. I love that. I think they did a great job. Very, very smart thinking, I think.
So, I noticed he put it in there. I was just going to say, make sure you get that URL in there. The other thing about the blog article. So let's say I'm selling soap, and I've got these articles just these articles. I'm not linking to the product page, am I? Like, if I've got a link about lavender soap, which by the way is fabulous, but if I've got a link to my lavender soap page, should I not do that?
I think there should be no problem with. Don't overlink your article, but if you're they know, people who are reading this know that you put time and money and so forth into creating helpful content for them. You deserve to give yourself some attribution. Just avoid a lot of sales copy in it. Don't say, try our lavender soap, but instead it's like some soaps that people might find interesting include lavender and, I don't know, basil or something, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's perfectly acceptable to internal link to that. In fact, in many cases, when you're looking at your Google Search Console at your internal links, you're trying to understand, the pages that are linked to the most and what text that you're using. And if you're trying to amplify the ranking of a certain page, the first place I would start is, where am I mentioning the keywords I'm focusing on this page throughout the rest of the website, so that I can activate those links and boost how many internal links I have to a page to tell the search engines that this page is important and relevant to this keyword, and maybe 5 or 6 derivatives.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to mention again, we've got a giveaway today. and Steve is giving away a 72 point audit on for your SEO. If you want to be involved with that, is hashtag Wheel of Kelsey. Tag 2 people, get them to comment, and you'll get a second entry. All right, so let's talk about. Let's go over to any further optimization of your website. So you're putting out the blog article. Is there anything else that you can do to help promote that article, or anything you can do on your website to get better SEO? That's a pretty loaded question.
Let's wrap up upper funnel first. I do think as you're navigating that page, a common thing I see happening that almost becomes annoying is like text throw up. It's just paragraph after paragraph, maybe a couple of subheadings thrown in, but it's just a lot of paragraph content. I think if you're going to create a really good page, take some time to create your own images for that page. Get a camera out, or hire a photographer, put some images in there. And if you're backing up some of the statements that you have, create some charts and graphs, right? There's I can't remember the name of the website now. I think it's Visage.io or Visage, and what you
that's
do is,
it. Yep, that's it.
And so you go to that and you can actually create some charts and graphs around the information that you found. So put some research behind your article so that you can create some graphics, because people really like to link to and share and curate data. They just love that. They're like, oh, they're always trying to prove I'm right? There's a lot of people in the world like, oh, I'm right, and let me show you. And they'll pull graphs and charts and they'll put them into your presentations and whatever. So I would say break up your paragraphs as much as you can. Maybe even in some cases put something where, since you're again not trying to sell, but maybe somewhere in between you put a little block. You see Neil Patel do this, where it says something like, hey, if you're interested in this topic, we have a guide. And it's a nice little gray box or whatever that says click here and learn. So break up your content with visual elements that don't make the user just see paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Neil Patel and Healthline are both good examples if you want a point of reference. I've found that pages that have more unique media on them perform better than pages that don't. Media being custom images, because you can use caption and title text and alt text and metadata in those images. Video, just be careful with video with all the new page speed requirements. We probably want to have that video a little bit lower on the page than we used to. We used to like to have that video right up there and be prominent, but for Google's new Core Web Vitals, it seems like putting it lower on the page is preferred. So having a custom video, having maybe some audio on the page, if you've got an audio download, and of course any images that you could use that you created that other people might share. Stay away from the stock images. People recognize those and they're like, they're just trying to write an article to get free traffic. But when you come up with something custom and unique, like, oh, this is pretty cool, this is helpful, they put time into this, and I got to share this. This is really cool. They took the time to create something really helpful, and I want to share it with everybody. So I think those are sort of the elements of that long form page. And think about your college days when we had the MLA writing standards. We tell them what we're going to tell them, then we tell them what we told them. So really break it down in that first paragraph below the table of contents, sort of like a thesis. Here are the 3-4 things that we're going to talk about in this article, and then talk about them and use subheadings to break them up, and then have a summary at the end. And if you can put some actionables at the end, what to do next, a checklist, a download, a template, that's going to really stand out from what the competition's doing. There's a lot of really interesting content out there, but nothing with specific actionables that you can take away to say, okay, this is exactly what I need to do now. This is the template I should use. And this is an example of a page that our page needs to look like. If you can do that, then you're setting yourself way apart. There's just so much just chit chat in articles that it's almost annoying. Give them something actionable that they can take away, and you've got yourself, a amazing long form upper funnel page to build brand awareness, to use for remarketing, and hopefully get some featured answers.
So you could put at the end something like, for more information, download our checklist, or you could have a PDF file about the topic. Could you also
done that with I have a page called SEO Manager Job Description, and it actually has a downloadable PDF that has the bullet points of the responsibilities and requirements, so they really can just kind of copy and paste. But it's that's the one thing I always got the most compliments for, is the fact that we actually created exactly what they should be using. Instead of just giving ideas, we said, here, use this. I'm like, well, you just gave me everything. Yeah, enjoy. I'm like, wow, you guys are really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. So do you also at the end kind of lead people to the next topic? I've got lavender soap. I'm writing about the benefits of lavender, and then say maybe Dead Sea. So at the very end, would you say for more information or to learn more about our soap products, click, boom, it would bring up the next blog article.
You could test. I like seeing the related articles,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If you've got
Yeah.
everything tagged correctly and you've
Okay.
set everything up right in your WordPress, having 2 or 3 options of here's some other things you might be interested in. I've even seen that done in context. So as they're reading something like, oh, this is really helpful. Oh, but this is what I was really looking for. And so they'll click that right as they're reading the article and go to the page that they want. It breaks up the content, but it also gives them an option to go to another page. And just like YouTube's goal, right? They want to keep you on there as long as possible. So if you're doing the same thing and it's somebody who's, in that what do you call it, higher phase of the buyer's journey, they're not yet ready to make a purchase, keep them on the site, keep them navigating, see what their interests are. And if you're tracking things correctly and you're using event tracking in your Google Tag Manager and you're paying attention to what they're doing and where they're going, then you can tailor the remarketing experience for them based on what you know about them. You can put them into custom lists in your CRM and tailor the messaging that you have when you do paid social and paid search around what their interests are based on where they went on your website and where they ended up leaving.
Quotes. So a lot of blog articles will use quotes in their formatting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that cool?
Yeah, I know a lot of SEOs get really hung up on duplicate content. Well, there's no penalty for duplicate content, and quoting and curating other content's fine. That particular section isn't going to benefit the SEO, but it's not going to take away from it, especially if it's helpful and the user, uses that as a social signal, or social proof signal, and they're like, hey, this is really cool. I trust, since I see this quote in here, that that this page is legit. They're sending facts and sharing other information from other websites. I think it's great. I think if I were to try to come up with a percentage of what should be unique and what should be curated, I'd try to shoot for like 75% unique, or
Okay.
greater. But I think it's great sharing content from other websites, and I've never had problems ranking pages by doing so.
Back when I was writing those, or when I had the other site up back 14, 15, 16, one of the things, and I think it's probably a taboo now, but I would take curated content, take a small portion, and I'd have like 10 articles, all the summaries of the curated content on the page, which would lead back to the actual article. Is that still okay?
I don't know that I've seen that. That's interesting. I think I'd have to see an example of what it's doing and look at the performance of the page. I think a lot of it's just testing, right? You look at trying some new content strategy, trying some new link strategy. You put in annotation analytics, the date that you start the test, and watch and see what it does. Look at your search console around those URLs. Look at your discover section and console if it's upper funnel to see if it adds benefit. I think everything's always worth testing, as long as everything that you're doing is for the benefit of your customer and not just, specifically to try to game search results.
Now, for publishing this on social media, you don't have to just publish it once. You can publish it. For us, like I always tell Kelsey, try to publish it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Put it back in the queue, because people might miss it.
Sure.
Or just not all at the same time on the same search platforms, but just spread it out different times. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like how many times an article should be published?
I think there's another cliche, it depends moment, because every social network's a little bit different. Twitter, for example, like you said, the Twitter stream is a waterfall. So share, reshare, share again. The neat thing about social media, if you've done it right in your article, you'll use some of the different fields that are available in the back end. For Facebook, you'll use the open graph tag and customize the experience so that you're talking specifically to your Facebook audience. You'll have your Twitter card fields. So you can say, hey, Tweeps, here's our latest study on such and such, right? You can talk to the Twitter audience specifically using those tags. So when anyone shares, not just you sharing your own content, but when anyone shares that content and they drop that URL into Facebook or Twitter, they'll automatically pick up those specific tags, the Twitter card and the Open Graph tags, so that you can tailor the message toward those audiences. I would do the syndication of that short answer and the syndication of your images and media that you have on the page as much as possible for image search and video search, and so that you're working toward getting those beautiful little featured snippet images that you see at the top sometimes. So part of that syndication process for upper funnel is let's blast out all the media and our short summaries to every social network that we have. How often I would post, I think, would vary based on what my marketing calendar looks like and what our themes are. Maybe this month we're talking about technical SEO. So a lot of our content, is going to be divvied up by, 100 different technical SEO things. But maybe instead we don't have a calendar this month. Maybe we're just kind of like, let's just get something out there and share it. What I would do is when I reshare it, I would ask different questions. Like, hey, when you read this, what did you think about this? What's this particular thing that we said? Or, hey, when you got this graphic, how did it resonate with you? Maybe run a poll or a survey. Just vary it so you're not just repeating the same thing. I know we like to use Buffer and Sprout Social and blast it out there and schedule it and reschedule it. But I think it's worth the time to go in and modify it just slightly to see which ones are getting the most engagement and which questions, which types of things that we're saying garner the most engagement. Otherwise, you won't know. If you send the same message over and over, all you're going to get from it is what time of day is best to post, which is still helpful. But I think varying the text and the share as much as you can, and maybe tagging certain influencers and certain people in the industry to ask for their opinion, and using a hashtag generator to see what hashtags seem to get us in front of the bigger audiences. Mm-hmm. Each time you post, I think there's a lot of opportunity to vary what you're pushing out while still pushing just that URL.
Am I going to kill my audience by putting a pop-up on a blog?
So light boxes aren't that big of a deal. If you've got a light box that comes up and it says, hey, would you be interested in something that's related to the content, mm-hmm. right? Like, hey, before you read this content, there's also an audio, or we have an event coming up on this topic if you're interested. I think that's great. I don't think I would hit it with them right away. Mm-hmm. I think I'd let them read the content for a few seconds. And as they start scrolling the content, have that little light box come up very passively at the bottom, where it doesn't really annoy them because they can still see the content on the top, and they can say, you know what, no thanks. And they'll just close it if they're not interested. I think that's a polite way to have a passive light box, as opposed to using an interstitial that's distracting. I don't know about you, but I get really frustrated when I get to a page and I don't even read what's on there. I wanted to read this. I saw it in the search and I don't even look at whatever it is. I immediately close it. So I would do the opposite. Now, you might test the pop-up on exit. Mm-hmm. Before you exit, you might want to do such and such. It's still a little bit annoying, but they're going to leave anyway. So I think it's worth testing, a pop-up for an exit if they're leaving the website. If they're going to another page on the website, no. But if they're leaving the website, hey, before you leave, give it a shot.
Okay. Now I just had a brain fart.
Lower funnel content.
What's that?
Lower funnel content.
Well, of course, that's where we're going. But I did have something else I was going to talk to you about. But okay, let's go over to lower funnel content. Let's talk about that.
Sure. It's one of my favorite things because that drives customers, right? We always say, what type of content is this? And you hear informational versus transactional. I call it customer driving versus link attracting, right? That's the way I look at it. One's going to hopefully get us links to our site by creating amazing stuff that people like. And one's going to hopefully attract customers. And that customer content's going to have a different voice, a different tone. Our title isn't going to say 5 things to do such and such. It's going to say buy, purchase, order, download, sign up. It's going to include our main keyword that we want to optimize for. It's going to include a selling proposition, right? What is it that we know our customers really need right now? All the airlines are charging more for baggage. So maybe our title says something like no baggage fees. right? Free shipping is always an obvious. It's a default. It's almost numbing at this point because most brands have tried that as part of their title to get better click-through rates. I think having a strong meta description as well, even though the meta description keywords aren't used in ranking, they're still bolded and highlighted and something that users will see and respond to. But more importantly, I think in affecting that user behavior, that user search behavior signal, is exploring some of the different rich results that we can have for that page. I would go to Google and search for rich results gallery and look at all the different things that we can optimize for so that we get a pretty thumbnail in a mobile search result from our image, or FAQs right below our listing, or star ratings, because we want people to see what our customers think of our products or our service. There's a number of new things that are coming out all the time in that structured, rich results gallery. So many cool things that you can test and try and experiment with. There's even fact now. It's so funny. And there's so many different ways that you can explore to make our listings stand out. Now, once they get to the page, because we've convinced them to click on us by being more visual, by standing out in the search results, now we got to keep them there. And I think to keep them there for a sales page, we want to make sure they don't have to do a lot of scrolling. They get what they need right away above the fold. We got a fun email from Jeff at IHOP last year when we helped them to load up a start order button during the pandemic on the location pages. Well, the location pages get nearly 30% of all the traffic to a restaurant site, right? The actual restaurant location pages. And people weren't clicking on directions during the pandemic, right? So we added a button that said start order. And then Monday we get an email saying, holy crap, what just happened? What'd you guys do? Can you send us some data? And we just added a button, right? Millions of dollars of online orders later, could be because we made it simple. And that button was a floating button at the footer of the website. You could see it now. If you go to any IHOP or Applebee's location pages, you'll see those floating buttons. The conversion rates in many cases are as high as 300% of an increase versus not having those floating buttons. Whoa. We started experimenting with that with California Closets in 2014. By schedule a consultation, we ended up putting it above in the floating header instead of the footer. But if you can get it in thumbs reach, because that's our goal from a mobile user experience, we want the user to be able to, with one hand, get through an experience, and if we're good enough, with just their thumb. So they're holding their device and they're going to flip through with just their thumb. Interested, maybe one little flick to look at some details. Purchase. Oh, cool. There's purchase integrations. I could use Shop Pay. I could use Amazon Pay. I could use Facebook Pay, whatever. Click a button and boom, I've checked out and I'm done. Wow, that was easy. Click, checkout, finished, right? Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? Whatever. So I think that's our end goal. And a lot of businesses still have old school business owners that want more information. I want to collect more data. I want to put more stuff away. Great, get that later. Let's get the purchase first, right? So I think from a sales page standpoint, let's make sure they get everything they need as much as they can without scrolling, that we've got a floating call to action button in the footer within thumbs distance. Maybe one is buy or purchase or add to cart, and one is chat so that you can interact with the customer service department if you have questions. Always have a phone number. A phone number is a trust signal, and it lets the customer know that if I'm not happy, I know how to get a hold of you. I can call and I can actually speak to a human being, so I trust you more now. But if I can't, then I'm going to have to go through crazy emails and go on Facebook saying, does anyone have a customer service number? And so I think having that phone number is important. And I get it. As a business, you don't want people phoning in orders. You want to track your digital marketing data exclusively online. I understand that, but you got to let some of that go for the sake of the value you get and the traffic you're going to get. It's going to outweigh, the number of visits, significantly if you just add that one little phone number. One other thing I might do too above the fold is have a search. And because we're talking to mobile users now more than anything, unless you're B2B, if you're B2C and you're trying to get customers to your site, have a search box with a microphone in it, not a magnifying glass. Use the Google voice recognition API and allow users to be able to voice in their query, similar to how you might in Google. So you'll click that microphone, it'll come up with a prompt that says talk now, and you say iPad cover, and then it searches and it finds all the iPad covers for you. So now you can use voice on your mobile device without even having to use your keyboard or click around. It's just a smart thing to start evolving to as you're getting your page. So there's some above the folds focal points that I would do for mobile experience. Have that search box, or at least the microphone prominent. Have a call icon at the top. Put your buy now button in thumbs distance and a chat button next to it, or just the buy now button if you just want to focus on that. And then make sure all the product information that they need is right there above the fold as much as possible. Below the fold, we might put some other attributes, more details. One of my favorites was the Bowflex. I don't know if they've changed their site over the years, but Bowflex used to have all of these different tabs. Watch a video about this product. See customer reviews about this product. Frequently asked questions about this product. And the FAQ stuff's always important for that rich results anyway. But Bowflex always had some really good product detail pages. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Amazon does a great job. So does eBay with how they've structured their pages. And they're getting better every day. Even when I was in college, in the 2000s, at 1 o'clock in the morning, it was always exciting watching Amazon changing button positions and button colors, doing their midnight testing, because they live and breathe in the SEO world, because that's their bread and butter. They don't have a lot of Amazon stores yet, right? So it's all online. But so the product details, the product attributes, and it can be tough sometimes if you're selling other people's products. Temptation to copy and paste from the manufacturer website, not really going to help your rankings as much. So I would really dedicate a small team of people, or use Phrase or some of these other tools we mentioned, or Jarvis, to help you to generate the content for those product descriptions at scale if you can. I've also seen people use Mechanical Turk and use the masters in Mechanical Turk to help them to create content at scale.
I've never heard Mechanical Turk?
Yeah, Amazon Mechanical Turk. It's this anonymous platform of anonymous workers all around the country, or any country. You choose the country, you choose, how many ratings or reviews or projects they've worked on. They call them hits, HITS. And at scale, you can have your content written by people all over the States. And then you still have to have somebody edit and moderate, but you could 5 cents to $50, right? However much you're willing to invest, those anonymous workers will look at the task and go, yeah, I could do this. They'll submit, you'll review, and you'll either approve it or you'll decline it. And it'll go back to them or to another worker, but it's all anonymous. And you could probably knock out 1,000 product descriptions in about an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But the moderation piece, it does take a lot of effort. You don't always get great writers. So yeah, I would test, look at Phrase, look at Jarvis, look at Amazon Turk, do some experimenting, see what works best for you, see where you get the best results. And but don't just copy from the manufacturer's website. I don't think there's a lot of value in doing that. And manufacturer is going to come up for that content anyway. So I think it's better when you can take the time to create your own. That user-generated content is the best. If you can get your customers to leave reviews, that's worked for Amazon for years, right? So why not? Why not? And they've got moderation on a lot of the stuff. So create your review and allow users to review section. Let users submit their information, but give them clues about what you want them to say, so that you're getting more keyword use. Like, tell us about why you wanted this product. Tell us about what you were going to use this product for, because then the words that they're going to use are words that other searchers are going to be using to find and solve problems. And they're going to come up with that page because somebody said on that page, the answer that they were looking for. So I think that UGC, that user generated content, is a real easy way to create unique content on each of your product pages, or even your service pages if you wanted to.
Have you ever heard of Acadium?
What's Acadium?
Acadium
is the bad guy from what was it, The Last Dragon? No,
it might be. I don't. We'll say it is. But
do you remember that?
No, I don't remember Acadium.
He didn't have the glow. It didn't work.
But Acadium is an incredible site for interns.
Okay.
And you can go all over the world. You can go, like, I was looking at one lady for copy who just graduated from Yale.
Okay.
You could get there's everybody from all different walks, usually higher, like university educated, that are just looking for 10 hours a week of work. It is dirt cheap and high quality work. So
amazing.
I think it's I think it's around $300, and you have a 3-month term at 10 hours a week with this
Nice.
person, and it's for social media or it's for anything to do that you can help somebody along with their experience. You're mentoring them.
Yeah,
So
any task that requires a little bit of critical thinking, anything that's push button or just placement type work or data entry, I would still probably think about Philippines or
mhm.
India. But if it's something where it's not just follow some steps and be done, where you want them to think and to research, I love that. I think that's fantastic, and that's very affordable for most businesses, I think.
Yeah, and they've just started a freelance program. So now you can go in and find somebody and get them started. But anyways, that's I think Kelsey put it in there, Steve. But
I'm always
we
going to
can
think of Eddie Arcadian now from Last Dragon. That'll be easy to remember.
there you go. Okay, but we can send you that link.
80s pop culture nerd over here.
I think we're about 1:15. Kelsey, do we have? I know Steve has got to get off the call shortly. Do we have any questions that we can answer?
We do have a couple questions. I'm guessing they're going to take up a little time though, but we can see how it goes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, from Jessica Rabbit. When you have a product and want to determine keywords, do you start with Google, putting it in what you think a searcher would use? If not, how do you determine most search for and relevant?
I think it depends on if it's an existing URL or a new URL, a new product. If it's an existing product, I'd start with Google Search Console. I'd look at my ad group search term reports from Google Ads and Bing Ads to see what actually converted for me. I don't care as much about the traffic as I do about trying to get sales. So I might look at the search term query data in both Search Console and ads first, and then I'd use competitive insights. I'd take, I'd start with just something broad, look at what search results come up, take those top 10 pages, drop them into, say, SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever keyword tool you're using, and you might find that that initial seed keyword is the third or fourth most searched and not the highest when you actually run that pivot table looking at the 10 results that appear. So you get those 10 results, and then it starts to draw inspiration to potentially give you another seed keyword that you would then use. Then you do your research from that seed keyword, start to organize it into groups and clusters. Those groups become sections of the page or even sub pages, depending on how much content you can create about them. And then you've kind of set yourself up for a silo of really helpful content that's driven from search volume insights that you got from competitors. If you're working with a new URL, that's how I would do it.
Okay.
From Simon, the creation of content and its distribution is extremely time consuming. On top of the 1,000 other tasks we do every day, what is the most cost effective and efficient way to build out content?
Yeah, well, it's a tough one, especially for newer brands, because like you said, it is a lot of work. So if you can get an intern, like Norma had recommended, I've even got a few from the classes that I teach at UC San Diego and Cal State Fullerton, even Fullerton Community College. So if there's someone that you want to connect to who's learning digital marketing still, that might be a great place to start to help you to scale. Give them lots of examples and references. The Healthline, for example, is a great place to start. If you're doing commerce and focusing on trying to sell on your website, give them the Bob's Watches example and say, I need you to try to emulate one or two of these websites, and then shoot it over to this consultant for his opinion, just so that you know that you're going down the right path. So I would start there if you're looking to scale. We also give some ideas on how you could use crowdsourcing, like Amazon Mechanical Turk. There's also crowdsourcing content sites like Writers Access, and it's got just a pool of writers that specialize in certain industries. So if you're in automotive, there's probably 50 different writers there that have an automotive background. There's probably 100 writers with that were paralegals and looking for extra writing work, as in the legal sector. So, Writer Access is a great place to find industry specific content writers that can help you to scale. But you're right, it's expensive. It takes a lot of budget, especially with coming up with some of the media that you need, then the unique images and the Visage charts and graphs. It's a lot of work. So if you create a calendar with Meineke Car Care, they were releasing content every Tuesday, and then they would work Wednesday through Monday on creating the next piece of content. And then they'd launch it on Tuesday. They do some outreach after the fact to try to get some people to share, but they did one a week. And in a year and a half, they generated nearly 500,000 visits to their content section of their website by creating all these how to, where to, why to with pictures, images, and sometimes videos. It's worth the effort. It drove brand awareness. And, because most people need an oil change within 90 days, they were able to use remarketing and pull them into a $14.99 oil change coupon.
All right.
All right. And then this is our last question from Simon. If we have a new website with new URLs and have a lot of content that has old backlinks, is there a simple way to amend all those links?
That's a tough one. So you have a new website. So that's interesting. You have a new website, but you have old backlinks. I'm not sure. I suppose if the topic's the same, what I would do is, and this is how we did Bob's Watches back in 2010, is we took the original website that was on that domain and we kept the old pages up, and then we built on top of it and we created our own content, but we left those pages up for several months so that Google wouldn't think that it's a new website, but instead an evolved website. So we didn't lose the history or the authority that those pages that helped to to give Google some sort of a signal of holistic relevancy. That made a big difference. And then 3 months, 4 months down the road, we started to redirect those older pages, and it sustained. We were actually able to have a really profitable first year and rank very quickly because we'd used that older site. To update links that are coming in, inbound links, you could do a little bit of outreach, find the ones that are the most important, that are driving traffic, using your referral traffic report in Google Analytics, and go to those folks and have them updated. If you're not getting a lot of referral traffic from it, I wouldn't worry about it as much. Instead, I would just use redirects. Go into your Google Analytics, drill into content, sort by title, and filter anything that has not found in it. And that'll give you basically a list of all the pages that are getting hit from other websites that are pointing in, and maybe some from internal. But then you take that list and based on how many people are hitting those pages, figure out where you want to redirect that traffic to. So that way, and you don't really lose much when you do a 301 redirect in terms of page rank value. Instead, you can focus your energy on attracting new links, but that way you don't lose any links that you've already earned. And if there's some in there that aren't trustworthy in the report you run in SEMrush or Ahrefs or Link Research Tools, which is also an amazing link tool, they'll give you a disavow list. Take that disavow list, filter it, make sure you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and submit it to Google in their disavow tool, and make sure you keep it up to date once a month, and you don't have to worry about any kind of penalties happening, especially after the latest spam update. I've noticed that that they're just ignoring a lot of those links a lot more than they are penalizing them.
Okay. And that was it, Kels.
Yeah, we had a quick one. Do you recommend TextBroker?
No.
Okay. Short and sweet.
This has been a lot of fun, guys. I love talking about content and nerding out on SEO. Thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out with you. And listeners, thank you for giving me a chance to be a geek and talk about search stuff. If you enjoyed this, we'd mentioned this on the last time, but we do have a little course called Academy of Search. You should all have that promo code, just SEO Steve. If you want to save, and get it for free, feel free to use SEO Steve. Check it out. We're going to keep it up to date. Beginning next month, we're updating our SEO course. So if you want to see something similar to what I teach at Cal State Fullerton in terms of SEO strategy and get all our templates, all I ask is that you give me some feedback. Let me know what you think.
Well, you're a giver. I mean, that course I think is $400, $500, $600, $700, $600. So that's free, guys. So go in there, check it out. We signed up. It's a great course.
Thank you.
And I just got to really appreciate you coming on and just always just giving us a ton of information.
My pleasure.
Before you go, we have to get to the Wheel of Kelsey and see who wins this big giveaway.
All right, here we go. The Wheel of Kelsey.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
Okay.
For this point, checkup audit. If you are the winner, please email me, k@lunchwithnorm.com. And here we go. All right. The winner today is Tony.
Tony. All right. Tony Cigar.
Congrats, Tony.
All right.
And
Congratulations,
Tony, if you want to
Tony.
use that for a client side or give it to a friend, you're more than welcome to. So, yeah.
Yeah,
let me
and
know.
Tony's got a great product, so I think he's going to love this 72-point audit.
Sweet.
Steve, how do people get a hold of you or your company if they want to
Sure.
get started?
Well, I'm SEO Steve everywhere, SEO STEVE on all the socials. And then the team here, if you want to pick their brains for questions on e-commerce SEO or local or multi-location, we're just Wiideman, Wiideman. Pretty easy to find everywhere. So check us out.
Steve, you're awesome. Thank you for
You're
joining us
awesome,
today.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. We will see you later. Okay, everybody. Well, I hope you got a ton of information. Steve always drops a ton of nuggets on us whenever he's here. Kelsey, who do we have coming on Wednesday?
We have Rob Tabrak, and he's going to be talking about financial KPIs and accounting and how it can help grow your business.
Okay, very good. Before we go any further, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Global Wired Advisors. They're a leading digital investment bank focused on optimizing the business sales process. For more information, please contact Chris Schifferling and his team over at globalwiredadvisors.com. All right, today is Monday. If you have not subscribed to our newsletter and you want some interesting content, exactly what we're talking about today, sign up. The newsletter doesn't suck. It's just content. That's all it is. Kelsey, is there anything else more than like and smash those like buttons or whatever you say?
Not really, but it never hurts to smash those like buttons.
There we go.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this episode out to anyone who you believe needs some help with SEO or website content, anything like that. So if you're new to the show, we do these Q&A sessions at the end of every show where we get the experts to answer your questions. So next episode, we're going to do the same thing. Have a Wheel of Kelsey giveaway. So tune in on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And learn a little more. And I stole Norm's lines again.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Kels. I only have 2 lines at the end, but that's okay. I'll just say it again. So tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thanks for being part of our community, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Lunch with the